tons of, got about, I don't know, maybe a foot of snow last night. I mean, not quite a foot of snow, maybe 10 inches, But anyway, my wife might disagree. She might say there's only about 4 inches out there. But anyway, yeah, another show day and another talk today. And people seem to enjoy the talks, So we're going to talk about manufacturing, right? But specifically, we're going to talk about Palmer Luckey, right? So Palmer Luckey's a guy. A lot of people don't know who this guy is, but he's kind of a visionary dude, kind of an eccentric dude. Pretty cool though. If you get on Twitter or get on YouTube, just Google this guy, Palmer Luckey. Luckey is Luckey. And he's kind of he's the goofy dude that shows up. He's got like a mullet and an old, stoner's goatee. And he's a guy that'll show up in a black tie event wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Like, he's just really interesting dude, like very, like I said, kind of eccentric's the best, probably the best word to use. But he's started a company called Anduril, right? And this Anduril creates a lot of defense-based technologies, big into AI, big into autonomous vehicles, and all this kind of stuff. And he started out making VR goggles, right? So I think people at this point, we've all tried VR goggles at one point or VR headsets. And he got into this technology, created this thing called the Oculus. And it was essentially the next step in VR. I don't know if you guys remember, like Nintendo came out with the last cool VR thing. It's like this little thing you put on the ground or on your desk, and you kind of put your head around it, and it'd wrap around your face, and you'd look at it, and you could play like Mario and Donkey Kong, and it was pretty cool. I thought it was awesome. But he created the next best thing, was the thing called the Oculus, right? And then came the Oculus Rift. And he then sold this device and this technology to Facebook, right? Which is now just called Meta. And he made billions of dollars on it, right? And we all know what kind of happened to it. The technology kind of went bust. Maybe not bust, but it wasn't very popular. And I think Google Meta ended up losing just a shit ton of money on the whole thing. And I don't know if it's going to make a comeback. But anyway, point is, this guy made a bunch of money, and he's taken that money, he's reinvested in his next company, which is called Anduril. And he's working on a lot of this AI technology and a lot of government contracts. And he's cool because he's one of these people that is creating things here in America. He's actually a American individual who's creating American businesses and is actually doing the manufacturing here in America. So he's one of these entrepreneur type people that's pushing to manufacture stuff in America. And he always talks about how the American manufacturing base is dying, right? And he's trying to bring it back. A lot of people are trying to bring it back. But if you guys get on this, it's I don't know what you call these, but it's a handle on Grok, right? So get on there and type up Anduril Accelerator, I think is what it's called. And there's a whole bunch of these speeches that this guy has done over the years. And there's one on here specifically that I want to talk about today. And then we're going to dig into manufacturing, what's happened to manufacturing in America and how they're trying to make a comeback, right? We're trying to redevelop things here in America by using gentlemen like this man who has an idea, has a product, has contracts, and is actually making stuff in America. It's very cool. And in a world where we just are completely into nihilism and defeatism, and everyone just wants to bitch and complain all the time and point out all the shitty things that are going on in the world, this guy's working on something that's really cool. And so let's talk about something that's kind of fun today, and somebody who's really doing something that's actually good for America, right? So that's what I want to talk about. So who is this? We got the Lego guy in here. Very close to getting 3,000 watchers. Yeah, I'm getting close. I'm probably about 200 hours away at this point. So I'll probably get there next month, I would imagine. I think it'd take me 10 more really good talks. Again, people seem to really like the live streams when we talk about, especially people love Trump. I don't know what it is about Trump, but people just love when you talk about this man and his policies. It just gets people coming. They just clamor in and want to talk about it. And my big passion isn't Trump. My passion is manufacturing and small business. I like making furniture. I like giving people jobs. I like just talking about that kind of stuff. And so that's not always as popular, So I'll also do the Trump talks and the talking about politics and stuff like that. But today I'm talking about manufacturing. We're going to talk about this a gentleman who's in manufacturing who I think is very inspirational, to be quite honest with you. His name's Palmer Luckey. So yeah, thanks, Lego guy. We're getting there. It's going to take me a little bit to get there, but I think I'm close, And then from the 3,000, then we got to get on the 4,000. But 3,000 is about all I want, It's like if I can get to 3,000, that means I've hit my goal, right? I've been working on. When I first started this channel, I got 1,000 watch hours in like the first month. My first video that I put out was of a waterfall coffee table. If you guys go in the Modern Woodrunner on YouTube, go all the way to the very first video, it just blew up, right? And I did it at the very end of COVID where everyone was blowing up. And then after that, every video I did would get like 100 views, 200 views. It just wouldn't get very many views. And I did that for like a year. I just kept making videos on how to make furniture, like furniture that's not out there, and just got no traction, you know? And so I just kept at it and kept at it, started doing live streams and shorts about how I do all kinds of things, metal work and brass work and all that kind of stuff, and slowly started to build. And this has kind of been the first year where it seems like I'm finally getting some traction. When I do a lot of live streams and I do a lot of content about woodworking, it seems to resonate with people for the most part. But it's a long road, guys. I mean, it's a long road to get this thing going on. During COVID, man, you could just make it happen because everyone was at home watching television all the time and YouTube and stuff like that. And it's a little bit different game today, but we'll get on with this thing. Okay, so Palmer Luckey does this talk, and he's talking about how America won World War I, not because we had the best weapons, we had the best technology, we had the best soldiers, we had the best anything. It was because we out-manufactured everybody. And I know a little bit about this because I used to live in Wichita, and Wichita had some of the manufacturers that were really, really important when it came to manufacturing stuff for the war in World War II. Companies like Coleman, companies like Cessna, these companies were there in St. Louis, and they all got transformed into basically making tanks and all kinds of supplies for the war out in Europe. You know, so there's a lot of history there in Wichita, Kansas, specifically related to these companies creating things for the war effort in World War II. And they all talk about it prominently in their heritage. It's really cool stuff, you know. So what he says is that we basically just out-manufactured everyone. And the way that we out-manufactured everyone was that we made the simplest things. We had simple tanks, simple bombs, simple munitions, simple weapons. This simple technology allowed the people that were making clothes to then start making weapons, right? The people that were making airplanes, I'll get my feed to come back. Here we go. So we started making these simple weapons and simple munitions from all these different manufacturers here in America, and it turned into where we were just outproducing everyone, right? Henry Ford is well known from taking the B-29 bomber, which we were making, I think, one a month. He sped it up to where we were making one a day. You know, we were pumping these things out just constantly. We outproduced everyone. We outproduced anything Germany could do. We outproduced anything Russia could do. The axis, basically, of evil, whatever you want to call it. And so we outproduced them all. And he says that one of the things that really has screwed America today is that as we have globalized everything, right? All of our manufacturers, all of our large corporations have outsourced everything to the third world. The companies that were left, they have purposefully made manufacturing more complicated, right? So today, if we wanted to make a missile today, it'd be very difficult for, you know, whatever, a company like Ford to turn around and go from making cars to making missiles, right? Because the engineering is so precise. The machines that actually make the missiles are so, have such close tolerances, are so precisionally engineered that it's very difficult to just ramp up production and do these kind of things. So he says that it's super dire that we bring a lot of this manufacturing back to America and that we move to simplize manufacturing and not try and make it as complicated as possible. Because the other thing about making manufacturing and manufacturing goods more complicated is that it makes them more expensive, right? Like, what have you guys seen with cars today? When I was growing up, we bought a car, it had a CD player, was like the new technology. You might have had like 6 speakers, you might have had 1, maybe 2 airbags, and that was basically it. You might have had ABS, you know, possibly, but now every car has, you know, 14 airbags, you know, 12 stereos. It's got an insane amount of electronics in it. It's got, you know, crash deterrent system, lane adjustment systems, radar, LiDAR, all these systems in cars now. They're so complicated that the average price for an automobile is like 50 grand today. It's just wildly expensive. And so as we've pushed for these products to be more and safer, to be more environmentally safe, to be more complicated, the price has gone up for everything, you know. And so as this happened, we've just literally stopped producing things. And if we want to produce them, for the most part, we have to produce them in the third world. And when you do that, you forget the technology, right? You forget how to make things. You forget how to make simple things, right? The idea of just making a car that gets from point A to point B, you know, might have an airbag, 4 wheels, and some brakes. Those days are over, right? And they'll say, well, the customer doesn't want that. Well, the truth is that the auto manufacturers don't want to build it, right? Because they've invested so much time in all this technology and all this research that if they go back to just making a simple car, all that stuff's wasted. And so they're not going to let that happen. So again, and trying to start a car company in America is damn near impossible, right? This idea of getting another startup company like what was one of the was like Geo Metro, stuff like that. Like all that shit's gone because again, that simple vehicle lost its relevance when you started to come onto more complicated and higher end luxury vehicles, all that kind of stuff. Nobody wanted those cars anymore. Well, now it's the opposite. People actually do want those cars. And instead of manufacturing them here in America, if you guys followed the Trump administration, they've actually talked about bringing in cars from the third world to be brought into America that are simpler, right? Cars that don't have to have the CAFE standards that we have here in America. Cars like the Toyota Hilux, right? These are funny cars. So what you guys have, maybe I should go to this. But there's a lot of manufacturers here in America that have brands in the third world that are made by General Motors and Stellantis that aren't related name-wise to those companies. So there's a company, I think General Motors owns a company called Holden, right, which is the brand of General Motors in Australia and New Zealand. I spent a bunch of time in New Zealand, and you had all these goofy named car companies, but turns out they're all just American companies that have different brand names over there, And there's also things like Mercedes and Mitsubishi, and the German and the Japanese market are prevalent in those places, and they use the same name. But American manufacturers change the name, and then they send the vehicles over to other countries. I don't know why they do that, but like I said, Holden was a big one, and I could never understand why they did that, but they do. But anyway, point is that Palmer Luckey is just talking about how we had made things so complicated here in America that not only can people not afford to make that stuff anymore, no one can compete with trying to start a new car company today and to try to start any kind of new manufacturing company today because the technology is so complicated anymore. It's very difficult to get traction, right? Very difficult to get traction, which again is why they want to bring stuff in from the third world rather than let people here build it. Kind of weird. So we've got a lot of national transportation, highway, and safety regulations. You got a lot of OSHA type regulations, and you got a lot of EPA type regulations that make it very difficult to manufacture in America. If you want to build a manufacturing plant today, just to get a site built, right? You got to do, soil studies. You got to do environmental impact studies. You got to, do rainwater runoff studies. You got to do so much work just to put a fucking manufacturing facility, in some place where there's nothing, So there's a lot of work that goes into permitting and scientific research and studying that has to be done. It just makes it impossible to manufacture anything. It's a major problem. So what Palmer Luckey was saying is that he was saying that when World War II ended, we started to move from a manufacturing-based economy to where we started moving to a service-based economy, right? Like we no longer wanted people, stamping out, door handles. We didn't want people, working in the metal factories anymore, making raw steel. We didn't want people, working on electrical assemblies, wire harnesses, all that kind of stuff. So we shipped all that stuff out to the third world. And, when NAFTA came into place in '94, that allowed us to move a lot of stuff south, which is where it all initially started. But then when 2001 happened, we let China in the World Trade Organization. That's the thing that just sealed everyone's fate, right? That was the thing that just every single CEO in America was salivating at the opportunity of sending all that work overseas, right? So they sent all that work overseas, right? It started in 2001, and basically we started just designing everything. We figured that you basically just send someone to school, they're going to be able to design missiles. They're going to be able to design cars. They're going to be able to design houses. They're going to be able to do all this work because they went to school, So we funneled all this money into school. The money that would have went to people making stuff here in America, right? These blue-collar, manufacturing-based jobs. Instead of paying people this money, we gave them guaranteed loans to go to college, which was a huge mistake. Like it was one of the biggest mistakes. I think that when we look back in history, we're going to realize just what a large mistake that was, because there were second, third, and fourth order consequences from telling everyone to go to school, right? There's a lot of mental issues, people feeling anxiety, needing to be on antidepressants. We've got just an epidemic of antidepressants in this country. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we sent so many people to school, right? We put so many people in the service sector where you got, cushy four walls and fluorescent lighting and climate control. When you put too much of your society in that kind of environment, you create a society of pussies, right? And it's okay. You want some of those people for sure, but you don't want all of them. In fact, you want to have a pretty good mix of both. And the truth is that today we don't have that, So anyway, we thought that we could get everyone to be designers, to be educated, right? We could get people to work on systems like lean manufacturing, and, you know, whatever, Venn diagrams and all this kind of stuff, you know, work on branding, get out of making things, get into finance, right? Get into banking, be the people that, you know, provide the seed capital for these new businesses that start a business, but then do all the manufacturing in the third world, right? So it did a lot of bad things, right? We kind of see what happened. I mean, today it's very obvious. Everyone's saying, you know, if you guys look at the studies today, here's this kind of blow your mind. So the truth is that if you get on the internet and just Google whether a college degree is worth it today, what you're going to find out is that the people that have the college degrees are now have more unemployment within the degreed part of the world than, or excuse me, the degreed part of America than the people that just have a high school education, right? So the people that have a high school education are more likely to get a job than the people that are going into college, right? And the people that are coming out of college. A lot of people, when they see that degree today, we see problems, right? We see a person that potentially isn't going to gel with an environment that is dirty, with an environment that is not clean, that you know, uses profanity, that has a specific kind of work culture that's noisy, that could potentially be dangerous. This creates a world where these people don't know how to operate, you know? So immediately when we see someone with a degree, we have pause, you know? That's not necessarily good or a bad thing. It is what it is. You know, we're immediately like, oh, wait a minute here. We don't know. We got to be careful bringing this person into our culture because they're going to have ideas about what it is that we do here, right? And we don't want that to kind of happen. So who is this bald nightmare? What? We're talking about Andrew, right? We're talking about manufacturing in America today. We're talking about why manufacturing was such a big thing in the 40s and the 50s and how now, which is basically a service-based economy, but it's making a big comeback, right? And one of the people that is helping to make this happen is a guy named Luckey, right? He owns the company Anduril. He started out making VR goggles, sold it to Facebook or Meta, and made a shit ton of money. And now he started these other companies, and he's really pushing for American manufacturing to come back here, right? And so that's kind of what we're talking about. I'm a manufacturer. I own a manufacturing company, and so this is the stuff that I talk about on this channel quite a bit, and that's what we're talking about today. So point is that when you bring these people into your company, because we have the service sector or this service push for the last 20 or 30 years, it's very difficult to bring these people into a manufacturing type environment, you know, because again, they've got all these goofy ideas about how they think things are supposed to be. And a lot of times it's not correct, right? So that's what he's talking about, you know, so we got to be very careful with these people, but we have to get the manufacturing back here, right? It's very difficult to do, but we got to do it, right? So with that being said, there's a big push today to bring this manufacturing thing back, right? And what Palmer's saying is he's saying that we got a lot of companies today that are talking about bringing industry back to America, bringing manufacturing back. We're going to bring back all these jobs. We're going to bring back steel jobs. We're going to bring back, you know, furniture jobs. We're going to bring back all this manufacturing. And what's really happening is you got a lot of people that are using buzzwords, right? The buzzwords like reindustrialization, and they're doing it because they want to get capital, right? You guys see what's going on with a lot of these AI companies right now. They're literally just moving money and stock around to each other to boost their values, right? They're getting people to buy in via stock, right? That AI is going to be the next big thing. And they're basically just, you see NVIDIA passing money to OpenAI. OpenAI is passing money to MSI. MSI is passing money to AMD. And then you got just this big, massive, like money circle jerk going on. And you're getting a lot of people thinking that this is going to be the next great thing. And it doesn't look like it's going to be, right? You got the same thing going on in manufacturing today. You got people saying, oh, I'm going to bring back manufacturing. Give me some money, invest in my business. We're going to bring manufacturing back to America. And what they're doing, right, this is what Luckey is talking about, is he says they might bring some manufacturing back, but what they're doing is they're bringing Chinese machinery and they're bringing Chinese support back in here to do that, right, which is better than nothing. I'm not going to say it's not, but what we need to do is we need to bring the manufacturing of the equipment back to America, not just the machines, so that we can make products without any people. Because at the end of the day, what do? Our jobs are to teach people how to make shit, right? If we don't teach people how to do this kind of work, what are they going to do? You know, we got a whole, 2 generations of people coming out of college that don't really know how to do a bunch of stuff. It's not super useful. It's getting less useful every day. Somebody's going to have to teach these people how to do stuff. And so that's got to be us, right? We got to be the people that do this kind of stuff. So, all right, so we got Gold Jaws in here. Hello, Gold Jaws. See you. Talking manufacturing today. We're talking about bringing manufacturing back to America. We're talking about Luckey, the guy that is the founder of Anduril. And one of these talks that he did that I thought was really good, and how he talks about how we need to bring manufacturing back to America and why it's been so difficult, in part because we've made manufacturing not only less here in America, but when we talk manufacturing in America, it's the machines, right? We're bringing machines in from China and other countries to make things to then sell to Americans. We're not actually teaching Americans how to make stuff, right? Which is something that's got to change. Otherwise, how do you expect people to start businesses? How do you expect America to reindustrialize if no one is actually learning how to build this equipment and how to build these systems? So it's a really important thing. So some of the other things that I wrote down is when we moved away from manufacturing in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. This is what actually started. It got it went into hyperspeed starting in the 90s and into the 2000s, right? When we let China and the World Trade Organization, again, every single business, the power of mechanical engineering, job safety says, yeah, mechanical engineers, man, is super important. I know a lot of mechanical engineers, and you probably never not have a job. So, all right, well, it's balls. I let a bunch of crooked politicians give corporations the green light to outsource their jobs. Yeah, that's 100%, and that's again what Palmer Luckey talks about. This is a guy, again, has an American business, does his work here in America, and makes a lot of his own technology and a lot of his own machinery. And that's something that sounds ridiculous, right? It sounds like, why would you want to do that? You can do it so much cheaper if you just get the stuff from China. And this guy says you can't have a society like that. If you're just going to only do the thing that is the most economical and the cheapest so that you can make the most money, it's all going to end eventually. Like you can't run a society like that. You have to do things because you want to retain the knowledge, right? You have to do things because it's good for your society in the event that some bad shit happens, right? Another good example is this, you were talking about mechanical engineering, and I'll bring in civil engineering. We had that, maybe you guys remember that bridge that got hit by that, what was it, like a barge, maybe? A barge in Baltimore? And they were talking about it was going to take something like $1.2 billion to remake this bridge. And I don't even know if they've started on this bridge yet, but what you guys have to understand is that in the 1930s, when they built the Empire State Building, they built the Empire State Building in 314 days, okay? That's an entire building that goes up, 1,000 feet into the air. They did that in the 30s in 314 days. We can't even build a bridge in a year. We can't build a bridge in 2 years. California tried to build a rail system. You can't build a rail system. They spent $24 billion and got nowhere with it, right? So point is that we don't make anything today, because we don't have enough people that know how, and honestly, we don't want to, right? We got people, Palmer Luckey calls them the elite. I call them academics myself. I think it's all academia, but he calls them the elites, and these people purposefully slow things down. They purposefully make it difficult for people to do the simple work, the work that should be easy, right? The idea of building a bridge isn't that hard. Building a building, a little bit more to it, So building a bridge isn't that difficult. Yeah, you got to go over water, but man, we've been going over water for ever, So it's not that big a deal. Yet, it will probably take longer to build that bridge than we've ever seen in our lifetimes. And it'll cost 10 times as much as it should because of all the permitting, all the people that have questions to ask, all the environmental regulations, the work regulations, the just layering and layering of red tape. And it's a big problem, So, all right, more comments coming in. Let's see. That is a shame. A bridge shouldn't take that long. Yeah, and again, I could get on Grok real quick and grok it, but I'm kind of curious if you guys are on the computer, look it up, see if they've even started that bridge yet. And it's kind of a joke, to be quite honest with you. Who's this? Palmy 428 today. Good to see you. Are you kidding me? A bridge is easy? Yeah, no. Okay, again, I come from Portland. I'm from Portland, Oregon. It's literally known as the city of bridges. Bridges aren't complicated anymore. It's not the most difficult job in the world. My sister's cousin came down from Canada. That's literally what he does, is build bridges. And he'll tell you the same thing. It's not rocket science. We've been building bridges forever. We have the technology, we have the know-how. The problem is always your county, your state, and your city municipalities that slow everything down. It's not like there's a lack of workers. This is not complicated, but we act like if you build a bridge, like you basically discovered fire. And that's the thing, guys. A lot of this stuff that we have here today, it's not complicated. Making furniture, the thing that I do, again, It's easy. Anyone can make furniture. I always tell everyone, like, anyone can make furniture. Try fixing a piece of furniture. That's hard. Anybody can make something. We've just done so many things. Like the AI thing, like that's complicated because we don't know where we're going. We don't have all of it figured out. Making bridges, making buildings, skyscrapers. I mean, hell, Boeing's out here right now, 15 miles down the road here. They're building a massive hangar. This hangar is probably 500,000 square feet, and again, they're going to have it done inside of a year. I mean, like we can do this stuff. You just have to have competent people to get it done, and we lack the competent people. And a lot of times they're just being slowed down by an abundance of regulation. Elon Musk talks about this all the time. The reason we can't move at the speed we need to move here in America, it's not because we don't have the people and we don't have the knowledge. We have all that stuff. The problem is that there's so many questions by people who don't know how to do anything. It's like, you really think that you need some guy, slowing you down through antiquated permitting processes who's never actually done any of that work in his life. He's just there to check a box, right? That's it. And like I said, go listen to Elon Musk talk about regulation. Like, it's just, the reason California can't make anything, is because every step of the process to make anything requires some kind of an inspection point, some kind of a permit, and if you fuck something up, you got to go to the back of the line and start over, and the process just takes forever. I mean, Graham Stephan here on YouTube just talked about why he's selling all his houses in California, because he literally tried to put in a bathroom, right? He was just trying to get some electrical bought off in a bathroom that he was trying to redo in one of his rental properties, couldn't get it done. Every time he'd try and get the permit done, get the inspection bought off, they'd find something, a new inspector would come in, and then the new inspector would find something, and it would just snowball into where he had to dig up his backyard to put in new piping for the septic system. And in order to do that, he had to get permits to pull trees. I mean, it's like wild stuff, guys. Like, it's so complicated to do anything here today. And this is the stuff that guys like Palmer Luckey talk about. Like, we have the capacity to do so much here, but when you just when you make everything about red tape and about slowing the process down and making sure you pay the right people to do the permitting and the inspection, nothing can get done, So it's easier to just send it over to the third world, and you don't have to deal with any of it there. Like, I'm always telling you guys, like, how many times have I said this on my stream, that one of the reasons that we can't make shit here in America today is because after 2001, right, we let China and the World Trade Organization, every company in America that could sent all their work overseas, right? And if they couldn't send the work overseas because of technology, they sent the technology overseas, right? They sent everything, all the science, any technical know-how. They made sure that everybody in these foreign countries could do the work, because trying to do it here in America is impossible. And they always would say things like, the labor's too expensive, we don't have the people, blah, blah. They always have these excuses. And one of the real reasons that we sent all that work overseas was because of all the red tape that we have here. Like, why would you try and build a facility to manufacture whatever electric parts, right, when you can just go over to China where they already do it for 10 other companies, just add your stuff to their list of things. They actually have districts that just make electrical outlets and electrical parts. Just have it done over that way. You don't have to build a building. Why would you go through all the trouble? So that would then be called vertical integration, which is something we're going to talk about here. Anyway, so yeah, there's all kinds of problems here in America with trying to manufacture things today, and Palmer Luckey talks about it. He's trying to get it done, and he's talking to the people that are the people that make the rules about how we manufacture things in America. And believe it or not, the Trump administration is trying to cut red tape left and right, so it's easier for businesses to come in here, put up massive structures, employ lots of people, and start making shit here in America that we can then export to the rest of the world instead of everybody selling their shit into America, right? So, yeah, that's my big thing, guys. Like, we've got to make stuff here. It's just super important. Okay, all right. So let's go through a few more comments, and we'll continue on. So I've got things. The next question we're going to ask in the topic today is, I asked Grok, is it possible to scale a manufacturing company to $1 billion company without foreign manufacturing? So we're going to talk about that. Scaling is a massive problem today in America, and why can't we do it? How come you can't, bring in a whole bunch of people here in America to make products and then turn a profit, right? There's a reason for it. So, okay, who's in here? Gold Jaws has a bureaucracy. Yeah, there's just too much bureaucracy, guys. I mean, you guys listen to Thomas Massey talk to Tucker Carlson about building a house on his own property. He talks about trying to, figure out the ventilation and get everything bought off from a permitting standpoint. It's impossible. It's impossible, right? And if you want to make something a certain way on your own property, you can't do it, right? They won't buy off on it. Like, there's the permitting process in the home industry is actually a bureaucratic institution that is bought and paid for by the people that make shingles, the people that make the electric parts, the people that make the plumbing parts. There's an actual entire body of lobbying groups that tell the politicians how to do the permitting for the housing industry. It's really twisted, guys. And Thomas Massey talks about all of it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Okay, let's see. So a house is harder than a bridge. I don't know if a house is harder than a bridge. It's just same set of problems on a different scale, right? Obviously, a bridge might run 1,000 feet. Hell, a bridge could run, I mean, you going down to, if you guys have ever been down to Key West, I mean, I think that bridge is 27 miles, right? I mean, between all the individual little keys, I mean, you've got some bridges down there like a mile long. Like that's it might sound like a complicated problem, but I mean, it basically is just a bunch of piers and some concrete. If you really want to simplify it down, it's not that complicated at the end of the day. So, okay, let's see. Gold Dust says, I do hate Portland bridges though. Why do you hate Portland bridges? So Gold Jaws, where are you from? Are you from Portland? So I'm a Portlander. You know, now I live in St. Louis. But yeah, it's literally known as the city of bridges. There's so many of them. I mean, St. John's Bridge. There's I'm trying to think of all the other bridges that were McLaughlin Bridge. There's just an insane amount of bridges. So it's beautiful, beautiful town, guys. Ever been to Portland? It's been destroyed by homeless people, or the unhoused, as the politicians want to say. Yeah, it's too bad, but it is what it is. Okay, your lamp is something else. Yeah, everyone likes my lamp. I always throw it in here, you know, just as like a little detail. I'm a big fan of A Christmas Story. I'm a big fan of National Lampoon's Christmas. I love Christmas. I'm not like I don't necessarily decorate a ton, but I love the music and the snow and the vibes of Christmas. I think it's like a nostalgia thing from growing up or something like that. But yeah, that's a leg lamp. That's the major award, right? Okay, who is that? That's Planet X 5269. Yep. So good to hear that, dude. Let's see. We need a new Theodore Roosevelt. Yeah. Well, and that's Theodore Roosevelt was known as the Trust Buster, right? Like this is he's a well-known president who helped with the conservation of our forests and of our beautiful areas within our country, like Yellowstone, places like that. Or excuse me, not Yellowstone wasn't what I was talking about. Grand Teton National Park, and I guess it was Yellowstone. Yellowstone's what I'm thinking of, up there in Wyoming. You know, so yeah, he's a very important president, but he understood that companies like Standard Oil were getting too big, right? Standard Oil had to go. Standard Oil was broken up into several companies, right? The most important ones being Chevron and ExxonMobil, right? Rockefeller had just conquered the industry. He beat capitalism is basically what happened. And when there's a very well-known story about him when he was talking to his accountants and his money managers, people like that, they were advising him that he needed to spread the wealth, right? Which is not a popular thing to say these days. But they were telling him, like, dude, like if you don't let other people compete within your industry, you don't let other people have access to kerosene, to oil, to all of these things, gasoline, there's gonna be nobody left to buy your products, right? You're gonna suck up all the money, and there's gonna be no one to buy your products, and guess what? You're gonna die poor, right? And we have a version of that today. We have companies today that, like companies like Amazon, Google, Meta, I would even say, oh gosh, I'm drawing like there'd be Google, Meta, Amazon is the big one. These are the companies that absolutely need to be broken up. And I think Google actually beat their antitrust. They were just in court for that. I think they actually beat it. I mean, technically speaking, they might not have, but I don't think they're going to have to break anything up. But when you have Google literally owns advertising. I don't know if you guys understand this, but Google has a near 100% monopoly on internet advertising, right? You can advertise on Facebook and Meta and Pinterest and all these kind of places, Instagram, stuff like that. But Google is just such a dominant powerhouse. They literally make too much money for what it is that they do. They don't have to have a lot of people to, the company almost runs itself, right? So these guys are making billions and billions of dollars in profit a quarter, which again, nothing wrong with making profit, but you can run in a situation where you have no competitors. And for whatever reason, our government seems to think that Google is not a monopoly, right? Same thing with companies like Amazon. Amazon literally has every kind of company within Amazon as you could possibly think. Like Amazon's big thing is obviously Amazon Prime, right? But then it's AWS, which is their cloud-based service, right? They literally they put on websites. You know, AWS is literally the company that allows a platform like YouTube to be on the internet, right? It's the back end servers and all that kind of stuff that allowed this to happen. So companies like that, they also wanted to get into healthcare. You know, obviously they're into video. They have their own production companies. They do just so much stuff. I mean, they've got Audible, right? Audible's another big one. They've got their music services. They're into so many things that it makes it very difficult for other companies to compete, right? It's very difficult for other companies to come up and compete in any kind of industry that these people operate in. And I've talked about it so many times where in order for the little guy to start a company and compete with these businesses, you have to get rid of the red tape. You got to get rid of the regulations, and you got to cut off the third world in many cases in order for American businesses to compete with other American businesses. But I don't know if it's going to happen, you know? So yeah, we need a Theodore Roosevelt. I honestly thought Trump would really help with some of this stuff by making it more difficult for the third world to come into America, but he's chickened out on all of it, right? I did a video on Trump chickening out on kicking out the immigrants. Like, he's just chickened out on so many things. Like, he's cut the border, or excuse me, he's closed the border, he's cut taxes, and that's really about it. I mean, other than that, he's just been stirring shit, and he ran on not starting new wars, and he's trying to start all kinds of wars at this point. You know, he's pissing off everybody, and he's swinging his dick around. And the problem is that if someone calls his bluff, it's you and I that's going to take it in the face. You know, it's not going to be Trump. He's going to ride off into the sunset. But yeah, so it's not good. You know? So okay, let's see here. Goes as we knew Roosevelt. I always said that tools are freedom in a box. Yeah, no, I had to put that on a T-shirt, man. That's a really good saying. That is a really good saying, actually. Tools are freedom in a box. Man, I love that. That is an awesome saying. Tools are freedom in a box. That's literally been my entire life. I've traveled around with a toolbox full of tools my entire life. And I've always owned a home. I've always had nice cars. I've always made good money. So I would say that might be the truest thing I've heard in a long time. So man, wow, I'm gonna have to write that one down. That's freaking awesome. So I'm south of Portland. So I grew up south of Portland in Corvallis, Oregon. So what are you, like, you in Salem, or where are you at? It says with traffic, I'm an hour from Portland. Yeah, so you're kind of like in the Salem area, probably down what is that, I-5? I haven't been back to Oregon in probably, I don't know, probably 8 years, maybe. No, maybe 6 years. So I need to go back there. Woodburn, okay, cool. Yeah, one of the things I really miss about Oregon was they had these. You remember that burger joint they had there? Like, it was like McMinniman's or McMinville's or something. Like, it had like a Mick something name, and man, they had the best freaking burgers. Like, and I mean, to this day, I'm 46 years old. I still think about those damn burgers. I can't even think of what the place is called now. It's been so long. But yeah, man. We got Oregon's a cool place, man. It's I miss Oregon in many ways, being an outdoorsy person. But yeah, in other ways, I'm glad I'm not there anymore. So, but anyway, so yeah, back to manufacturing. So the thing about what Palmer Luckey talks about, which is really cool, MT Angel's nice burger place. Yeah, I've never heard of that one. You know, so some of the other things that are talked about in this talk. Last sip of my Monster there. All right, he says that when we started sending everything overseas to be made in the third world, it was great if you owned a company, right? If you had a big company already, you could make tons of extra money. And with that extra money, you could hire people to do more design work. You could hire people to do branding. You could hire people to, you know, be industrial engineers, material scientists. You could hire all these kind of jobs that you would normally not be able to do because you would have to hire an American worker to make your product, right? So the delta that I was talking about, the 250 you pay the worker in China, and the 32.50 you would have to pay the American worker today. That $30 delta there, that's where you get to hire people to do branding, marketing, design. You get to hire, you know, meteorologists for your company. Some of the things that I see these companies hire for, I just can't believe. Like, it just blows my mind. You can hire PR people, press people. You can just hire all kinds of what I would call bullshit jobs. And that's what's happened, right? So when we sent all that work over to China, what Palmer Luckey says is that when you do that, you basically are destroying your manufacturing base in America. Because again, if you don't know how to make stuff, there's no one to make stuff. So if you end up in a situation where you're in another World War II type situation, which I think we would all agree with Trump in office, I mean, he's just picking fights with everyone and again, swinging his dick around. if we have to go to war and make stuff, we're not going to have the capacity to do it here. Like, we're just not. We're going to have to ramp up really fast. We're going to have to dumb down how to make things. And again, when all your stuff is made overseas, it's not like we can go down to the hairdresser and say, you know what, hairdresser, you got to start making bullets. Hairdresser's not going to know how to do that. Or you talk to even like a mechanical engineer, like someone mentioned mechanical engineer. And a mechanical engineer does not know how to make shit. A mechanical engineer knows the theory and the design of making things, understands, whatever, fluid dynamics and all the theories, Newton's law of this and Isaac's law of this. They all know those kind of things, but they don't actually make stuff. You actually have a facility that makes things in order to be able to do these kind of things, So having a whole bunch of smart people only gets you so far. You have to have a manufacturing base in your country, even if it costs more. And how many times have I told you guys how important it is to be the person that hires people and teaches people, even if you don't make a shit ton of money. It's that important. Share the wealth with your employees. Share the wealth of the people in your company so that your company can thrive. Your employees will break their back for you and do things for you that other people simply would not do. We have to have businesses that do that today. And when you have an environment that's full of MBAs and people that go to college, the only thing they care about is the bottom line. And when you have a society that operates like that, you don't have a society for very long. And we are where we are, I think, because of this MBA type mentality that we have today. It's no bueno, man. It's no good. So, okay, let's say I grew up in a blacksmith's son and a farmhand. Wow, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I didn't grow up on a farm necessarily, but we had horses and cows and sheep and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't call it a farm though. But I spent every summer bucking hay and helping farmers out, whenever there was hay to be baled, so that was kind of a big deal. And I grew up on a Christmas tree farm, so did a lot with Christmas trees and did a lot with furniture, man. My stepdad had a little furniture business and always stained and always sanded. Didn't build very much, but yeah, so with blacksmith, I bet you learned all kinds of stuff about metal. Metal's a cool word. My dad was a lifelong welder, so and I didn't learn a ton about welding, to be honest with you. I do a lot of metal work now, but yeah, I wish I would have learned more about this. So that's pretty cool. It sounds like you get a pretty well-rounded childhood, which is super important. So yeah. So anyway, if we don't keep the manufacturing base here in America, or grow the manufacturing base back in America, we're going to end up with a bunch of people that have a lot of theories about how to make things. How people can cite a lot of studies about how things are made. They can use CAD, they can design everything, and they can talk intelligently about how to make things. But when it comes time to actually bend metal, put in rivets, run screws, install whatever Loctite, we don't know how to do it, and so that's going to be a big problem. So Palmer Luckey is one of these guys. He's talking about, we got to fix this shit, and I think he's 100% right. If we don't do it, we're going to be in a lot of trouble, So look this guy up. I think he's really cool, and I don't know that, like I said, I don't know if this is necessarily, a cool topic for people, but as a manufacturer myself, I own a small furniture company, and we have we got 8 or 9 employees at this point, and we make about 500 pieces a year, and it's a great business. Again, we show people how to build things, how to assemble furniture, how to sand furniture, how to paint. There's a lot of skills that go into running a manufacturing company, and all those skills are super useful today. And if you look at the data, the person that comes out of high school that takes a job right away and starts a trade right away is more likely to be employed and make more money today than a person that goes to college. So look those stats up. It's wild. Patrick Bet-David was just talking about that. Going to college is no longer a winning bet. And if anything, it taints the perception of the potential employers that are going to employ because of the perception that a lot of people have of college today and what the indoctrination factory that academia has become today. So bear that kind of stuff in mind. Again, we got to start these companies, guys. We got to get people making things. We got to start teaching people stuff because we've got 2 generations of people now that all they know how to do is think. And all they do is preach and talk, and nobody knows how to actually make shit today. And the people that know how to make it, we got to teach other people. So that's what we talk about on this channel a lot. Talk a lot about making furniture, how to start furniture companies, talk about manufacturing, all these kind of things. And that's my job. So go on the Modern Woodrunner, see all the stuff that I make. Go on the resplendentcrow.com, see all the furniture that we sell. I don't try to sell anybody courses. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. There's no sponsorship. There's nobody dictating what I can or can't say. So that's what we're about, So I hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll do this thing again. And looks like Gold Jaws and one more comment. agriculture farm. It was yeah, yeah. Agricultural work is it's tough, but I think agricultural work is a great way to grow up, man. It just teaches you, to love animals, to love the land, how to work on things, to be complete, not complete, but to be more self-sufficient, I think, than most people are today. A lot of people live in the cities or in the suburbs, and when you grow up out on a farm like I did, or like you're saying, Gold, you just learn a lot about all kinds of stuff because you can't just Amazon something, right? You got to learn how to fix shit, right? You can't just get on the internet and learn how to do something. It's like you had to know people. You had to go talk to people in your area to get the information, and it made your society better, made your community closer, I think. So, okay, who's in here right now? We'll talk to you real quick, and then we're gonna get out of here. Let's see, Don Runyon. 3196. See, we are not an industrious nation. We have become a nation of whiners. Yeah, and that's what I talked about in this entire stream. We don't have the people that know how to make things anymore. We got a lot of people that, again, are super educated on how to make things. They're super educated on the theories of how, fluid dynamics and stuff like that works, engineering theory and all this kind of stuff. They're great at stress analysis, but they're not good at actually putting the theory and the designs into the real world, right? They're really good at sending that stuff to China or Vietnam, and then Vietnam will send that stuff back to us. But we here in America are not good at it. And Palmer Luckey, and the guy that I'm talking about today, he talks about this kind of stuff, saying that just because it's cheaper to send it overseas doesn't mean that it's good for your country. And you can't have a country if all you do is look for the cheapest, most efficient way to do something. It's a non-starter, and to what you're saying about we become a nation of whiners, like we see that today. Like all the people on X bitching about what's happening in Minnesota, and then you got all the people bitching about, little like micro ancillary issues, like the big problems. People aren't really too concerned about the big problems, and that's what I feel like I'm doing. I'm talking about the big issues of the day and the big things that we need to work on and how we can work on them as small people. Again, I got a manufacturing company. I never graduated high school. I teach people how to make furniture, how to paint furniture, how to assemble furniture, how to transport furniture, how to take care of a customer service, how to do sales, how to do marketing, how to do advertising, how to look at a profit and loss statement. All these kind of things are really important to teach people because then they have the potential to do the same thing, right? If we just have a country of people that go to college and get service jobs, man, no one's going to know how to do anything. And that's no bueno for me. I can't live in a society like that. I'm not going to live in a society like that. When I tell you guys that the single worst thing that we did as a country was let China into the World Trade Organization and then let every corporation in America send all their work overseas. Gold Jaws in here is from Woodburn, Oregon. I'm from Corvallis, Oregon, or Portland might be better for people to understand. But we have a company there called Nike, right? And Nike, while started as an American company, you can watch the movie Air if you want to learn a little bit about Nike. Nike is not an American company anymore. They ceased being an American company years ago. They sent all their work over to China. They sent all their work to Bangladesh and Vietnam. And 94% of everything they make is made in the third world. In my mind, that company needs to leave America. You need to kick them out. They don't want to do that work here anymore. There was a guy who had a shoe company when Trump put those tariffs on in April 1st of 2025. He was pissing and moaning all over X about how he has to pay this massive tariff to get his shoes in here from China. And it was going to cost him a whole bunch of money. He didn't know what to do because he couldn't afford to buy his shit from China anymore because it was too expensive. And I hate to say it, but those are the people I'm talking about. These people that think they're business owners today are not really business owners. And we've dumbed down what it means to be an American business owner today. We think that I start a company, I got a website, I get a logo, I get a brand, I get some shit made over in China, bring it back here, I mark it up 10 times, and I call myself a business owner. And that ain't fucking business owner to me. To me, you're a charlatan. And the people that are going to tell you, oh, you're such a great, successful business owner, like, I don't think so. Phil Knight, the guy that was running Nike for a long time, like, fuck that guy. That guy brought about what we have today, which is everyone going to college, not knowing how to do anything. And then when it comes time to make shit here in America, everyone says, well, we can't do it anymore. We don't know how to do it. It's like, well, why do you think we don't know how to do it? Just because all the people that were supposed to teach the next generations, they're like, nah, we're not going to teach that. We're going to send over to China. We're going to bring that money back here. We're going to sell these products to Americans cheaper while they go to college and get educated to do jobs that won't be here when they get out of college, right? It's messed up, right? The people that had all the money got rich, And the people that were the shareholders and the dividend holders, they got all the money, they got rich, right? Then they bought up all the houses, they started in the finance. You know, the finance industry is the single largest growing industry for the last decade. You know, like that ain't good, guys. You want to talk about the divide between the haves and the have-nots, and I'm sorry to go on a rant here, but this is all just true. The divide between the haves and the have-nots is brought about because of all the work that's sent over to the third world, and then the growing of finance, right? It's a big club, and you ain't in it, you know? So remember those kind of things. When you buy stuff from these companies, and I know we don't have options. I'm just as guilty as anybody else. But when you buy a pair of Nike shoes, you got to remember that company was started in Oregon, right? Was a great story, right? And then they sent everything to China, got all made over there, and they haven't made shit here in, I don't know, 30, 40 years. And again, largest shoe company in the world, I believe. I mean, Adidas was pretty big for a while. I don't know if Adidas is there anymore. So let's go with a few more comments, and we'll continue. See if you guys can get me riled up. I'll keep ranting away here. Let's see. My love is automation and logistics. So automation. So yeah, automation is great, man. I love automation. Like, I'm in the furniture industry. I think CNCs are great. I love the fact that we can program up parts. We can give simple parts to people, and people can learn to put those simple parts together, and then they can hopefully take those skills of learning to put simple stuff together and learn to make more complex stuff. And then they can start making custom things and doing the stuff that takes a little bit more brain power, a little bit more experience. So automation, I think, is great. I love it. I'm with you. And logistics, I mean, I hate logistics, but my wife handles all of our logistics. I couldn't, if my company had to run based on me deciding when things were going to ship out and when they had to be delivered, I would have went out of business day one. I hate that shit. I'm not wired for it. So if you are, man, good on you. Okay, Cray, Mississippi 4388 is here. Is the land behind you from the movie Christmas Story that came in a huge crate? That's right. It is. It was a major award, and it did actually come in a big, I don't think it was as big as the movie crate, but it did come in I want to say it was like maybe 4 or 5 feet wide, and it had, you know, all the peanuts and everything in it. It was pretty cool. My mom bought it for me years ago, and so yeah, I put it in my videos because, I mean, it's kind of interesting, right? I mean, it's sometimes what people need to see if I'm not being very interesting, or if they don't find me very interesting. A lot of people like the lamp, you know. So Mississippi, are you from Mississippi? Mississippi is a beautiful state, guys. If you guys have ever been through, a lot of people discount Mississippi as a low-income shithole state and Alabama as a low-income shithole state. And if you guys ever get down to those states, they're both gorgeous, right? If you're in my industry, which is the furniture industry, you learn a lot about timber. Mississippi and Alabama have large timber industries. Same thing with Louisiana. A lot of people discount Louisiana. Massive timber industries, and they're just gorgeous states. I mean, holy shit. You cannot... especially the highways, like just driving on the highways there, you'll just be blown away by how beautiful the foliage is there. So yeah, definitely don't discount those states. Okay, let's see. Don Runyons 3196 says nobody wants to get their hands dirty or build muscle outside of the gym. Yeah, everything's for vanity, right? You know, the idea that you're actually doing something for the sake of doing it, as opposed to doing it so that other people can see you doing it. That's the thing. That's one of the things I talk about with business. You got a lot of people, and I might be repeating myself. A lot of people, they start businesses, right? They get online, they get a website, and they look for products, right? We call this white labeling. So, you know, say whatever Don Runyon 3196 says, I'm going to start a business, right? I'm going to sell cups. Right? So then they, instead of making their own cup and learning how to do pottery, right? Learning how to spin the thing on the wheel like Demi Moore and Ghost and you know, having all those great experiences learning that skill, and then maybe teaching that skill to somebody else, right? What they do is they look for cups that are already made in China, right? And they bring that cup over here after that company in China puts your logo and your brand on, and then you sell it here, right? And because you don't have to make it here in America, you have the delta that I'm talking about, right? The delta of $2.50 an hour and $32.50 an hour. The $2.50 an hour, you got to pay the person in China to make your cup, versus the $32.50 you'd have to pay the American worker. You can then take that money, you could spend it on marketing, what we were talking about earlier in the stream. You could spend it on branding. You could spend it on packaging. You could spend it on maybe going to exhibits, all these kind of things. Spend it on, you know, marketing on Google, marketing on Instagram. Talk about how amazing your cups are, because you don't have to actually pay American people to make your shit. We got a lot of people doing that, right? And that's like lifting weights for the sake of lifting weights instead of getting strong by doing real work. So I spent a summer redoing. I used to own this house called the Fraser House. It's a famous house in El Dorado, Kansas. You guys can Google. It's really cool. Really cool. There were popular movies shot there. Not Richard Gere. Gene Hackman was there. Deborah Kerr was there. Burt Lancaster was there. John Frankenheimer. Like all these actors, and they actually added on to the house for the different kind of movies that were there. One of them was called the Gypsy Moths. But anyway, point is, I spent a summer redoing the front walkway. I made it all out of cobblestone. And I remember when I started that project at the beginning of the summer, and when I finished that project at the end of the summer, I put on probably like 10 pounds of muscle. Like I went from being kind of a lean runner dude to having big fucking shoulders and just crazy arms and legs from carrying wheelbarrows and running compactors, and packing sand and being down there grinding down cobblestones and stuff. I mean, that work, I felt like a freaking man after I got done with that work. And that was the most amazing feeling. And then years afterwards, people would come by and say, man, I can't believe you. How did you do that? Who did that? And you'd have these stories about it. And they couldn't believe that I did that shit all by myself. So yeah, man, I get what you're saying. We need people that really do work here in America. It's nauseating. And again, guys, if you had that delta, right, the $250 you're paying the person in China, the $32.50 you're supposed to pay an American, you can spend all that money on marketing, and that's great for you, right? But who are you teaching to make your product? You're not teaching anybody. What do you got to hire a fucking marketing guy? You don't know anything about marketing. Well, you hear these business gurus, they'll say, well, hire your weaknesses. That's what people say when they operate in the third world, right? Because the truth is that if you're a real business owner, you have any fucking money for that. You have to learn that stuff, right? And then maybe you can get a little bit of money, you can go hire a person every now and again to help you with that stuff, but it takes a long time to do that kind of stuff, and you can circumvent all that work by going to the third world. But guess what? You're not helping your community, you're not helping the next generation, you're not helping your kids, you're not helping anybody, because you're not teaching them nothing. You're teaching them how to outsource, and that for a country is death, based on what Palmer Luckey has been talking about in some of these talks that he's been doing. So, okay, go back on more comments. Sorry, guys. This is what I like to do. I'll read through comments and go kind of back and forth with people, then I kind of just riff on stuff that I've experienced over my life. And again, as a person that worked in manufacturing for 20 years in the aerospace industry, now owns his own company, been doing that for almost 10 years at this point, got a lot of experience. I had to move all around America to get to where I am today, and there's nothing wrong with that. When people, talk about living in the same town forever, like I don't think that you could do that today, and I wish you could, but I think it's very difficult. So you got to be willing to move around and learn new things. So. All right, more comments. So let's see here. So I read 3196's, we're not an industrious nation, we become a nation of whiners. Yeah, and again, I know a lot of that, dude, I'm going to say one more thing on that, I'll be done with it. A lot of that is when you send everyone to college, right? These college kids, and I hate to be that old, I hate to old man everyone here, mansplain, but like we're making generations of pussies, like generations of bitches, and I know there's some people that aren't that way, but a lot of people, man, they come out of college and they got some fucked up ideas about what the world is like. And I know people that they don't even want to have kids because they're worried about climate change, like stuff like that. It's really weird, so it's hard to believe that you can fuck somebody's head up that bad. They're so scared about something in the future, they're not willing to live in today, right? To live in the present. So yeah, I think you're onto something there. Okay, let's just, I love my automation. I already read that one. So this is Cray, Mississippi, 3488 is a lamp. Yes, I already answered your question there. Nobody wants to get their hands dirty. Yep, saw that one. Gerber is the same. Gerber, so what do you mean, like Gerber the CNC company, or Gerber the infant formula company, or Gerber the life insurance company, which I think is part of the formula company? There's a couple of Gerbers out there. I don't know if Gerber the baby formula company is the same as Gerber the CNC company, but we used Gerber CNCs at aerospace to cut out all of the fabric patterns for the seats in Gulfstream jets. So you have to let me know what's going on there. So, see this Orange Sunrise, man. Good to see you. Nice name. Fragile. Yeah, I don't know. Sure, fragile means. Craig, Mississippi, 4380 says it has improved a lot. I don't know what he's mean improved a lot. I don't know if you're talking about the state of Mississippi. Like I said, I was just in Jackson, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. And again, I really liked it. I thought it was beautiful. And I drove up there from New Orleans, on my way back up to St. Louis. And man, I thought it was beautiful. I literally stopped in Jackson because I thought it was great. It was a beautiful state, So stayed the night there. I think like an Embassy Suites or something. Okay, Blythe Vids, language. I don't, Blythe Vids. Blythe Vids, interesting. Yeah, language is something that, some people like language, some people don't. And this is the thing, it's like if you're gonna do a live stream and you're gonna talk to people in the real world, like people don't always talk perfectly. Again, I never graduated from high school. Like I own a manufacturing company. I'm around rough dudes. I'm around rough chicks even. And we all have kind of a language. This is my language. So I know how to read a room though. Like if I walk into a room with a bunch of old ladies, like I'm probably not going to talk the way I talk now. But when I'm on a live stream, this is my space. People can operate in here, hang out, and if you don't like the way that I talk, just head out. And you can say, hey, I don't like the language. Like whatever, that's cool, man. I could try and temper a little bit, but it's just kind of how I talk. So I wouldn't take any offense to it. But I noticed that name Blythe. Lamb of God's one of my favorite bands. Randy Blythe's kind of a badass, So you had a cool last name if that's your last name. Okay, TBC says, fuck marketing, fuck advertising. No, 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 no. Marketing and advertising is very important. But the problem with marketing and advertising today is that we give out degrees for that kind of thing, right? And the truth is that, we need more people just learning about marketing and advertising because they have businesses, right? We need more people learning about marketing and advertising because they're trying to help their employer out. So they go and learn this thing and they can kind of grow and learn it with their employer. We need more people doing this stuff because they need to do it for work. When you have to do it because you're like, oh, I think it would be great to be in advertising and marketing. I'm going to go get a marketing degree. I'm going to get a master's in marketing. I'm going to get a PhD in marketing. I'm going to get a blah, blah, blah. There's always some kind of next degree for freaking everything. If you don't actually do it in a real business, making real money, then what? You're LARPing, right? LARPing is a real popular word, but you're playing marketer, you're playing advertiser. Oh, I did a mock advertisement for Pepsi. Yeah, do you work for Pepsi? No. Okay, then shut the fuck up. You didn't do marketing for anybody. Marketing is something that's learned over time as a necessity, right? And you can pick it up in Instagram, you can pick it up on YouTube, you can pick it up on X. I mean, you can pick up a lot of knowledge about marketing and advertising by watching other people do it on the internet, but the best way to learn it is to get in it, right? Start a business. Learn what your competitors are doing. Like in my space is furniture, right? So one of the things that I'll give you guys a tip here. Here's a back end tip on advertising and marketing. So my wife's a marketing guru. My mom is a marketing guru. My mom made all of her money in advertising and marketing in the accounting and wealth management industry. My wife markets for our business, the Resplendent Crow. We use Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. We tried Google. We just didn't really see a return on that thing. But video is everything now. So it used to be pictures were great, but now everything's kind of moving to video. So if you want to learn about advertising and marketing, learn about the static side, but then also learn about the video side, right? There's a lot of people looking for that kind of stuff today. And the thing that, at least in our industry, that people are looking for on the advertising side is less about our furniture, right? Like we're known for our beautiful furniture. They want to see our furniture in your home. They want to see it in our home, right? So now we're using our home as the backdrop for all of our advertising and marketing. And what I mean by that is not that we have a nice home and we put our furniture there, it's that we redo our house. And then we put our furniture in there. And people that love to watch furniture content love to see house being redone. They like to see beautiful homes. They like to see all the stuff related to the house, not just the furniture. So there's things in advertising and marketing that you can do that aren't necessarily related to your product, but they're in the same world, So think about that kind of stuff. If you guys are if you own businesses or you want to do advertising and marketing, that's something to think about today. It's becoming more of a thing, So, all right. So let's see, that was TBC Bob. So TBC Bob and the Blythe videos. Marketing is the devil's job. No, marketing is what it's all about. Like that's the thing that I tried to start a business 3 times in my life and I failed every time. And it wasn't until I met my wife, who had a great product but also understood advertising and marketing, right, and sales. And advertising, marketing, and sales are the lifeblood of any business. My mom always says that, you can have the greatest product in the world. You can make the best piece of furniture, sell accounting services, have jewelry, whatever. But if you don't have someone to sell it and market it, you're all going to starve. And she's 100% right. It's the truth. You have to have that in any business if you're going to make it, all right? And if you look at what I'm always telling you guys, and I'm going to be a broken record on this, but the delta between the $2.50 an hour you pay the guy in China and the $32.50 an hour you would have to pay the American worker, that $30 an hour allows you to hire marketers, allows you to hire advertisers, allows you to hire salespeople, allows you to work on branding and do all these things. And we've got too many business owners today that's their business model, right? I talked about Restoration Hardware's business model. every chance I get because it's such a fucking disaster. I hate it. They're such a successful company and they make nothing in America. They don't own the factories that they make stuff in Vietnam. They own nothing. And they have a $200 per share stock, right? They're all over the world with these massive growlers. They push how many private jets they have, how many yachts they have, how many penthouses they have. They push this life of luxury while selling a product that is made in the third world by people who work for $2.50 an hour, have no safety regulations, no EPA regulations. They can't sue their employers. There's no transportation regulations over there. They have almost no rights, and these companies get rich doing that. And in my mind, these companies aren't American. They need to get the fuck out of here. They need to go. I don't want those companies here, right? That Gary Friedman, whatever the hell his name is, like that guy would never make it in business by himself if he had to make his own product. He just wouldn't, and that's the thing. If we're going to grow our country and we're going to grow the manufacturing base of this country, we need more people that are able to manufacture. And the first thing you do is you put a 300 or 400% tariff on Vietnam and China. And you do it right now across the board. No exemptions, right? Trump had an opportunity. He was supposed to tariff China 50% starting, I want to say it was January 1st, and he chickened out. Like, again, Trump the fucking chicken head. Like, he chickened out again. Like, he always chickens out. He just will not clamp down on the large corporations in America today. He just won't do it. I don't know why. I don't know why he is so beholden to all these people and why he sucks their dick day after day. It doesn't make any sense to me because so many people, the people that voted for this guy, they all want him to do this. We voted for this. We voted for tariffs. We voted for shutting the border down. We voted for mass deportations so that we could all have a chance to live the American dream. But you can't live the American dream when everyone can outsource all the work to the third world. And if you do want a job, you first have to compete with all the illegal labor that comes into this place. And you can't make your wage, guys. You can't make the $32.50 an hour that you're supposed to be making because you're competing with the people that are making $2.50 an hour. And then they're bringing the people in here. And basically, it's messed up, guys. And I'm probably the only person who's going to tell you this. The federal government today would rather put you on welfare than give you a job. That's really what it boils down to. Even Elon talks about how we're going to have UBI here before too long. It's like, why would they hire you? You're expensive. You complain. You want things like health care and dental care. And why would they hire you? You're a fucking burden, right? When they go over to the third world, all that burden's gone. But again, put a 300, 400, 500% tariff on that product and it stops almost immediately. They'll jack their prices up so high because none of these people that own these corporations want to make shit. They don't want to deal with hiring you. They want to deal with your bullshit, your fucking kid problems, your car's not working, always being on the phone. They don't want to deal with any of that shit. So they're going to send it all to the third world. But the minute that they have to do that work here, guess what? The cost of everything shoots through the roof, which means you can start a company like that. So when someone says, well, I don't want to hire you, you're a fuck up. You don't have any, so you didn't even go to college. You could be like, okay, well, great. You're selling $7,000 credenzas. I think I can probably make a credenza in my garage that sells for $7,000, no problem. And I can learn about marketing. I can learn about advertising. I got Facebook, I got Instagram, I got YouTube, and that's all easy. It's damn near free to start a website. Those people are going to be quaking in the roots, not because of you, but because of the 10,000 other people that can also compete with them. And that's what they don't want. And that's what I talk about on this channel, guys. Like, it's disgusting what is happening in our country today. Trump was supposed to be the guy that was going to really help to usher in this manufacturing boom in America. And a lot of people are saying, well, you got to have the manufacturing facilities first. And what they fail to understand is that no manufacturing company starts in a nice, plush facility. And this is what your experts on television always tell you, like, we have to have the manufacturing buildings. We got to have the baser. We got to have the people to do the welding. We got the people to do, they always talk about like 3 trades. Like the only trades are an electrician, an HVAC guy, and they'll talk about a plumber. It's like, those are the trades. Like, there's 1,000 trades, guys. And guess what? There's 1 million, buildings out there to start a business in. 1 million of them, but they don't want to talk about that. So again, I'm a wealth of knowledge on this. This is literally my life. I don't have kids to worry about. All I do is work, talk on YouTube, and chase my wife around. That's like all I do. That's my life. It's awesome. I love it. So, all right, we'll keep going with our comments. Marketing is double job. Read that one. Okay. Cray, Mississippi 4388 says, do you always talk this fast? No, I've talked about this before, and I'll work on it. But normally when I talk in real life, I talk much much slower. My cadence is much slower. But when I get on here, I talk a lot faster because the truth is, guys, to keep your attention, you have to not only be interesting, but you got to move the conversations along, right? You got to keep saying something that's going to interest people. You got to get to the people in the feed. You got to go through what people are saying and interact with people. And you do have to kind of do it on 1.5 speed. But a couple of people have said that. And again, I've done this for so long now. This is just my speed when I get on here. So, but I noted, I'll try to work on it just a little bit, but I appreciate it. So, okay. Let's see. Blythevid says, "Holy narcissist." Yeah, I don't know about if I'm a narcissist. I think everyone has a little bit of narcissism in them. But again, like, what do you want? Like, do you want to look? Who are you looking to help guide you and to help talk about where you think society go or where you should go or what the steps are to becoming successful? Like, do you want to talk to a guy like Phil Knight who started Nike, sent all the fucking work to the third world, or would you want to talk to a guy like me? Never even graduated high school, right? Somehow figured out how to start a manufacturing company. Yeah, I've only got 8 employees. I only do a small 7 figures in revenue, but I think it's easier for you to do that than it is to be Phil Knight, right? And I talk about it from a layman's point of view, like, because I don't know everything and I don't understand everything all that well, to be completely honest with you. Because the truth is when you own a business and you have a company as a small business, you have to learn a lot of disciplines, right? And I'm not a smart guy. I would never claim to be intelligent, right? I've said it a million times that college is for smart people. College is not for dumb people like myself. College will not make you smarter, right? It will not make a dumb person smarter. It makes smart people smarter. You know, I've said it forever, you know? So anyway, I don't know if I'm narcissistic, but whatever, you can say that. Okay, we got Players Incorporated 38. Oh, great comment, dude. Again, guys, hit the like button, add the discussion. You want to have, goofball comments in here? I'm okay with that. I've been dealing with that for years at this point. It's great. I appreciate y'all being here, and then add the discussion. Jacob O has his message retracted. All right, Gold Jaws in here. This is the beauty of automation. You master it, and you never need to outsource. And again, that's right. That's right. I think that's a fantastic idea. Like once you learn a system and you can automate it, right? You don't necessarily have to do it again. You can have that's a great thing. Like in my industry, furniture making, like a lot of us when we were making furniture for years, we would run our parts through a table saw, panel saw. We cut dados on a router. We'd use pin routers to copy parts, all these kind of things. Then the CNC came around. And you could literally just throw a sheet of material on a CNC router, and it would do all the dados, all the rabbets, all the holes, and it would cut up every individual panel, and it speeded things up like significantly. And it's cool because we don't have to waste our time constantly doing dados and running routers and carrying heavy material all over the place throughout the shop. We just throw it on one machine and it's done. Now I can hire another furniture maker, So automation has a place, and you can still teach people. That's the thing. Like some people think that when you bring in automation, it means less jobs. And I've never thought about it like that. If like here's you guys want. Put it in the comments. Do you guys want to know the math on my CNC router? I'd be happy to tell you guys the math. Just somebody put in the comments they want to hear that kind of stuff, and I'll talk about it. So okay. Cool Justice Gerber knives. Okay, I've never heard of Gerber knives. I don't know anything about that. I just know that goofball Bourbon Moth was hawking knives there for a while, and just hawking all kinds of stuff. I'm not in the knife. I know there's some badass guys on YouTube that make knives, like handmade knives, and they get just millions of views. I mean, people. The thing about anything that you do, if you're really good at it, like excellent, people just gravitate towards excellence. And some of these guys that are making these like master knives makers and metalsmiths, I mean, really cool stuff, So yeah, but never heard of Gerber knives. Gerber knives came out of Oregon originally, but not anymore. Okay, well, so are you saying that did they ship all that work overseas? They start making them in the third world, or did they move to another state, or how's that work? What's the story with Gerber? Okay, DTSK 8599. How do you guys come up with these names? I'm so curious. Okay, let's see. I have an issue with you. Okay, well, a lot of people do. It's okay. You should do the same thing. Like get on YouTube and talk to me about whatever it is that you're passionate about or whatever it is that you do, and you probably get some people that have an issue with you too. Like you can't be all things to all people. It's I'm sorry. You have no market. You do not own any proprietary frameworks that replicate your style. Wow, that's a whole lot of nothing, man. But let me try and dissect some of that. So I don't think you said much of anything there, but I'm gonna pretend that you did, and I'll let's see if I can unpack this, and you can tell me if you agree with me. Okay, so you're saying I have no market. You do not own any proprietary framework that replicates your style. Okay, so what I'm basically hearing is that you think that I don't make anything of my own. That's kind of what I'm thinking, right? And the truth is that I used to actually only paint vintage furniture. And then I started making my own furniture, right? And then I started making all my own brands of furniture. So now I actually have, I want to say, 5 different product lines that are wholly my own. All the Resplendent Crow. That's going to be your credenzas, nightstands, dressers, china cabinets, all these kind of things, tall boys. We make all that stuff right here in St. Louis, Missouri. Everything is made right here in America. So I do have my own proprietary information, and I do have my own style, which is curated by my wife. My wife created the Resplendent Crow look and the Resplendent Crow style. I also make my own brass hardware. I do have it manufactured in India, but again, we design it all. I do all the CAD work, all the modeling work, send everything over there. It all gets manufactured. We bring back here. We put it on our furniture, right? So I have a lot of proprietary information and technology that's related to my company, the Resplendent Crow. So I think you're incorrect, but take what I said, and if you want to, come back at me, come back at me. So Ronald Reagan, Gold Jaws, Ronald Reagan. I don't know what Ronald Reagan is. Okay, yeah, Gerber knives are no longer operated in America. They are a popular survival knife brand. The quality has dropped. So what did they do? Did they go over to China? Did they go to Vietnam? Where's all that kind of work done? I don't know. I don't know how that necessarily works, but I know that there are specific districts in like China where they just do metal related stamping of parts. They do, there's metal work, metallurgy is all kind of done in specific districts over like Xinjiang, China. But I don't know anything about Gerber knives. So they used to make them there in Oregon, and now they don't. And that's what a lot of businesses do. This is very common, is they'll say as they're growing that they can't scale enough making things here in America. And through what Gold Jaws is saying about automation, through automation, they probably could scale here in America. But again, what I'm telling you guys about the regulations, the OSHA regulations, the EPA regulations, the permitting that it takes to make buildings, to bring in equipment, all these kind of things take a lot of time and a lot of money. And when you can hire someone in China for $250 an hour, or you can pay someone here in America for $32.50 an hour that is subject to dealing with taxes, you got workman's comp insurance, you got to, keep lawyers on retainer so that you don't get sued. You got to make sure your employees got a nice place, a nice break room. Your facility is nice. People actually want to show up. When you have to deal with all that, as you grow a business, the easy answer is just to say, well, send it all over to China, because it's just too much of a struggle to have to hire people here in America to bring in all this equipment and to get a facility going. It's too much work. And that's usually what the equation is, unfortunately. Trump was supposed to fix that by putting massive tariffs on the third world. He hasn't done it, and here we are. I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know why this guy he's waffling so much on this tariff issue. But I've done a lot of talks on tariffs, and again, as someone who has to deal with tariffs when I import hardware, I can talk about it pretty honestly and openly, I think, with a pretty good knowledge set. So, okay, let's see here. It says Carnage. Who's this? Carnage of Crust, man. Great name. Did you win a special award? You hell right, I won a special award. Came in a big box and everything, man. It was a major awards, actually, what it was. But yeah, I tried to put it in the window. My wife said, no, you can put it down in your office in the fucking corner where no one will see it. So yeah, my wife is just like the wife in A Christmas Story. Okay, Goldsall says, but Carter's Crust, man, great name. I love that name. So I don't really know where they're operating currently. Probably China, but I don't know. Stopped by a Gerber brand years ago. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, again, I think like outsourcing to the third world, I think, again, like there has to be a level where that's acceptable and a level where that's not acceptable. If you want to start a company and you want to make things in the third world, I personally don't have a problem with that. But a certain percentage of your product probably needs to be made here in America if you're making a physical product, right? If all you're doing is selling tech, right? You're one of these tech, oligopoly people. You're working on the technocracy. You're Google. You're oh gosh, what's the other one? Like OpenAI. You're one of these tech bro type people. Very hard to. I mean, working overseas isn't really a big deal. It's the financing overseas that becomes a problem, right? When you let outside investors into America and they can dictate what you're doing here from a company standpoint, like that gets kind of tricky. But the manufacturing thing, like you should have to make, I mean, I don't know what the number is. 60% of your product should have to be made here in America. If you want to call yourself an American company, because the truth is that when you when you institute a tariff, if you get a company like Nike who makes 94% of their shit in the third world, right? When you say to that company, you know what, you can't be here anymore. Like you're not an American company. You're not making your products here in America. You're not teaching people how to do something. You're teaching people how to market. You're teaching people how to do branding. You're teaching people how to do design, to do product development, to do whatever, athlete sponsorships, athlete development, all these kind of things. You're buying lobbyists, you're buying politicians and stuff like that with all this money that you're making from the third world. When you let those companies stay here, it's just bad for everybody. It's not good. Yeah, you get a cheaper shoe, but no one's going to know how to make shoes. You're not going to teach people how to be cobblers, right? And which cobbling, how many times have I talked to you guys about cobbling? Cobbling is a real thing that still works here in America, right? But it only works for people who buy really expensive shit, right? You have to buy really expensive shoes to afford to pay a cobbler to resole your shoes or fix the eyelets on your shoes or do any kind of work for leather. It's a very niche industry, but very well paid. But anyway, so with these companies manufacturing overseas, you got to kick them out. They got to go. It's like, if you don't want to make stuff here, great. You don't have to make it here, but you're not going to be an American company. Your company has to go. And then when you want to sell your $150 tennis shoes into America, you're going to pay a 400% tariff. So your tennis shoes are going to cost $600, $700, whatever that number is, into America. And guess what? You can start a shoe company if you want. If you're passionate about shoes, you can start your own company. Because you won't have to compete against some mega company selling shoes that cost, I mean, they could bring those shoes down to $100 a pair if they wanted to. Bring it down $100 a pair, making them in the third world, crushing you, or not making it possible for you to even get the machines here in America to make molds for shoes, right? To make, whatever, I don't know what all the technical terms are for shoes, but none of that equipment's made here anymore, right? So you could buy it from China, bring it in here, and start your own company. I personally got no problems with that, but at some point we have to be making shit here. And if you're a company that doesn't, make 60% of its product or more, like you got to go, and then you can have all the cheap labor you want and sell it into America. And like Trump was saying, everybody wants to be in the American market. If you want to operate here, you're going to pay for it. The problem is that these companies aren't paying for it. And Trump said that they were going to pay for it. He's not doing that. So it makes it harder for all of us to operate companies. Like one of the things I loved about having a large tariff on China and Vietnam was it meant that more people could buy my furniture, right? My actually American-made furniture. But when you waffle back and forth on what that tariff is, people just wait. People, well, maybe the tariff's going to go away. I'll just wait and then I can buy furniture later. Whereas if you just say, you know what, 400%, done. Then suddenly buying Restoration Hardware's furniture, instead of them selling $7,000 credenzas and me selling $7,000 credenzas, they either have to take it up the ass on the margin from all the shit that they're making overseas, or they have to raise their prices. So suddenly they're going to pay the $1,500 that it cost them to make that credenza in Vietnam. Now it's going to cost them times 4. Now you're talking $6,000 to bring that thing in here. They were making whatever $3,000 or $4,000 on that thing. Now they're going to make $1,500, right? So then they either have to bring their manufacturing back to America to get rid of that goddamn tariff, or they start buying off the politicians. They start getting in the ears of all these politicians, saying, no, we need to water this tariff down. This thing's like, we could do a 400% on China, but Vietnam, maybe Vietnam's only gonna be 100%. Like you guys remember this? This should piss everybody off. You remember when Trump instituted those tariffs on April 1st, and Apple came out and said, you know what, they're fast tracking moving production all the way to India. So all of these corporations, they have no problem spending hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars moving their operation from one country to another country, but they can never move it from that country to America. You can afford to move production from China to India, India to Vietnam, Vietnam to Indonesia, but there's never any money for moving manufacturing from any of those countries back to America. hilarious, absolutely hilarious. And every time we get a tariff or the talk about a tariff, it always gets watered down because guess what? The delta that I'm always telling you guys about, the money that they save by paying $2.50 an hour in China and $32.50 an hour here in America, that money goes to paying off the politicians so that we never get tariffs. It'll never happen. You'll never see a tariff that means anything. And how many times have I talked to you guys about tariffs? What tariffs actually mean? When you put a 25% tariff on a product, it means nothing. And everyone in America bitches about it like, oh, it's so much money. Like, it's literally cents, guys. Like, the shit that comes in from China and Vietnam, it's so cheap. The tariff boils down to cents on most things. When you buy a t-shirt made in China, there's a 25% tariff on it. The t-shirt comes in here, probably costs 25 cents. So you're paying 25% tariff on a 25-cent t-shirt. They'll upcharge you and they'll sell it here in America for $10. If the t-shirt costs $1 to come in if the t-shirt costs $1 to come in from China, that means it then costs $1.25. The 25 additional cents that you're going to pay on that product once it gets in here to America is a lot of these companies are just upcharging on things, and then you're paying probably 50 cents to $1 more per t-shirt, even though the company itself is only paying a quarter. Like, it's so twisted, guys. And again, if you had more business owners and more people here in America that were making shit, none of this stuff would fly. It wouldn't fly. We would never put up with it. But the country, unfortunately, is controlled by a couple dozen companies. It's turned into what's that movie, Johnny Mnemonic, where you got just a whole a couple of companies that are all fighting against each other. So anyway, that's I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, guys. Okay, let's go back to comments. So Gold Johnson stopped buying Gerber brand years ago. Yeah, that's probably good. I want to make the machines for manufacturing. Yeah, and that's a cool skill, man. Like, you always see these, like, there's a show that I used to really like. I don't know if it's still on, but you can go on, I think it's on Netflix right now. It's called How Is It Made? And they go through all the processes for how to make shit. And a lot of that stuff is made in America because the show is so old. And a lot of that shit now, it's not made in America anymore. A lot of these companies, once they were able to send it over to the third world, they sent all those jobs overseas. And the funny thing about it, guys, which, again, people don't talk about this enough, is it's worse than just the jobs. Like, it's so much worse than just the jobs. And that's all people tend to focus on. Think about China. Take a company like, I like to use Nike, just because, everyone knows it's universal. But when Nike sent those jobs overseas, you think that China was just like, yeah, we can make your shoes over here, no problem. That wasn't half of it, okay? The other half of the story that people don't talk about is Nike said, you know what? All these machines we got here in America, we're going to bring them over here to China. We're going to show you guys how to use them, and then we're going to show you guys how they were made. And the company that were making the machines over here in America started making them in China. So then all the machines got made over there, right? So then they could simply just make all the machines in China, teach the people in China how to use them, right? The science behind making the soles for a tennis shoe, for dyeing the leather, all this science and this proprietary information that Nike had, they gave it all to the manufacturers over there. And then they were able to then make those products there, okay? It's not just the jobs, guys. It's the technology, it's the science, it's the machinery, it's the technical know-how, it's all of it. Corporations sold this country out 30 years ago, and they have not stopped selling this country out. And all everybody talks about is it's the jobs. I'm here to tell you guys, it's so much worse than just the jobs, guys. If it was just the jobs, man, we could fix that problem, but we gave them all the technology. And then they'll come in and they'll say, well, China's our greatest competitor. It's like, well, you know what, motherfucker, why is that? Why is that? Oh, China's great and powerful. China's going to come eat our lunch. We got to watch out for China. It's like, we made China what it is. Like, we did this. America did this. We did this to ourselves. And instead of saying, you know what, we're going to sever this tie because we don't want these guys to grow any bigger, they're like, no, we can't do that because that'll hurt companies in America. We don't want to have a recession. We don't want to have people lose jobs. We don't want to have any pain. And we are where we are. We're stuck, stuck between a rock and a hard spot, So, all right, let's go to the rest of our comments here. Let's see. Okay, I wonder what we do without fiat. Mark knows something. Mark Travis. Yeah, what would we do without fiat? Let's talk about it. What's your next comment? We could do gold back. Yeah, so you're talking about basically the Fed, right? The printing of money, right? So if you go back to the Rothschilds and then Rockefellers and then JP Morgan, all these guys, yeah, they created a debt system that is now global, that everybody is in. Nobody can get out of this debt spiral that we're all in, and it all is because of printed money, right? When when the Rothschilds came with this idea that you could essentially create bonds, countries could create bonds, cities could create bonds. You took these bonds and then you could sell them to other provinces, other countries, other kingdoms. You could sell them to whoever you wanted, right? And then they would essentially give you interest on those bonds, right? Then you could then print money, or excuse me, give you money for those bonds. You would pay them interest, but you could then just print tons of money. And with that printed money, you could buy anything, right? You could spend on anything. And one of the things I think we all know at this point, that fiat money has allowed governments to essentially buy votes. That's what they've been doing. It allows them to go have wars, right, that the people would never vote for, and operate clandestinely because they've got black budgets, right, which no one ever sees, which is mostly made probably with printed money. So fiat currency has been probably the worst thing of the last 100 years. The Fed was created in 1913, and it was created in large part because people didn't want to deal with the booms and busts of a normal, healthy economy, right? They just thought that, especially after the Great Depression, that it was so bad that we could never do that again, So when things would get hard, the Fed would essentially just inject money into the system and start artificially buying shit with printed money. And when you do that, you allow zombie corporations to prop up. You allow people with money to have more money, right? The poor don't generally start business, so they just buy shit that's available, which is the people that have the money, right? The businesses. They then give the money that they get from the federal government to these businesses, and the businesses continue to grow when you allow money to be printed. We saw during COVID, the most recent example, when everyone was told to stay in, right? They basically bribed everyone. They're like, look, you don't have to pay rent. The state's gonna send you checks, the federal government's gonna send you checks, like just stay home. We don't want you guys to go out. If you have a small business, they told you to shut down. They told you that they would sue you if you didn't have people wear masks. EPA was gonna come down on you. I think it was something like hundreds of thousands of small businesses shut down during COVID and they never came back. But every large corporation got to stay in business. And everyone took all those federal dollars, all those state dollars, many of which were printed, $11 trillion, and they just spent it to these large corporations. And their stock went up, 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 while all the small businesses were put out of business. The largest wealth transfer in the history of the world, because no one was allowed to run a business unless you were a big company, right? The only companies that could afford to deal with all the compliance bullshit were companies that already had money, right? You look at a company like, I like to use Buffalo Wild Wings as an example. Like, Buffalo Wild Wings is still in business. All those fucking places should have been shut down, but they weren't. It was just the small mom and pops that didn't transition over to, doing the stupid door carryout, the DoorDash bullshit that we see today. Like, those are the only companies that could survive, that could make the transition. You got lots of small businesses that made that transition as well, but most of them didn't. And so a lot of people would call that progress, but I wouldn't. It's literally if our government wouldn't have been able to print money, we wouldn't have been able to close the economy down. And so fiat currency it's been the worst thing it's probably worse than war in many ways, because it never goes away. A war ends. Fiat currency never ends. So yeah, we got a big crash coming here in the near future, and maybe, hopefully not in my lifetime, but it will happen, and the dollar will die, and the only thing that's going to be left will be something like cryptocurrency or gold. The stuff that's going to be left are things like old comic books, old artwork, collector cars. This is the shit that's going to have real value, because this is what people see real value in. People don't see real. I mean, the dollar only works if everyone sees value in the dollar, and I think we all would agree at this point that as the government prints money, it causes inflation to come in. It causes every dollar you have to be worth less, which is why everything seems like it's more expensive, because the dollars you have are worth shit. It's a tough concept for people to understand, but you're 100% right, Mark. So anyway, guys, I got to get here. I got shit to do today. I appreciate everyone hanging out. We did an hour and a half today, which I think is pretty good. Getting the watch hours up. We're almost to 3,000. I appreciate everyone participating. Everyone who put in comments, hit the like button. I really do appreciate it. And we'll continue to do this kind of stuff. Go to resplendentcrow.com if you want to see the kind of furniture we sell. We ship it all over America. It's a great little small business we have here in St. Louis. Go to themodernwoodrunner.com. I haven't done much with it, but go see what it is, right? You can go to Instagram, you can go to Facebook, you can go to YouTube. We're all over the internet, so it's a great company. So you guys have a good one, and I will yak to you later.